What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 25 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly video game podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete Messi, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. How you doing this week?
I'm all right, you?
I'm going. You know, we're keeping our head above water over here.
Yeah, it's a good time to talk about video games.
Exactly.
Just forget about reality and just,
Yes, exactly.
escape for a while.
Yeah, after missing out on last week, I'm very, very glad to be back in the swing of things. I could use a distraction to talk about some good old-fashioned video games today, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Last week's episode was a good one. It was controversial. Everyone was hot and arguing down in the comments as to whether the Steam Deck is a viable alternative to the Nintendo Switch, which wasn't even the question, by the way. The question was, should you buy one if you have a Nintendo Switch? And I think the answer is yes, if you think it's something you want. But everyone seemed to think it was just like, stop playing your Switch immediately and play a Steam Deck instead.
There were some hot Nintendo fans in those comments, just like, no, it's this niche fan product. It's like, damn, like, these folks are fired up, But, hey, like I always say, there's no space for console wars, guys. You should be platform agnostic, right? You got to go where the games are. You got to chase the fun. And, I think there's a lot of fun to be had over on this side of the fence. Why would you close yourself off from that?
I agree. We had some great comments. So we had one from Shush that said that they've had a Switch for about 4 years and loved it the whole time. But this year they're going to grind at their summer job and buy a Steam Deck, as they've already got an all right Steam game library. So, and I'm excited about getting a deck.
Hell yeah.
Which is awesome. It's
great use of your money.
And the fact that you've already got the library just I think goes to show. But someone said it was a flop because it only sold 1 million consoles in a year, and I think that's just a ridiculous stance. But if people think this console's a flop, let us know in the comments.
Well, yeah, it's like it's I think making that claim feels like, I don't know if you'll understand this, Touchstone, because you live in the UK. But have you ever seen one of those like screenshots of like a graph on Fox News where it's like it's a graph and like there's but there's no numbers on the side?
Yeah.
So it's like it's like this is a flop because it sold 1 million units. So but like by what metric? What does Valve consider successful? And they do consider 1 million units successful, I would say, because they're doubling down on the thing, right? This wasn't a mass market product, so of course it didn't sell as much as the Nintendo Switch. Like that's not really what it was trying to do, And I remember being on that side of the fence, like when it was announced and being kind of like, who is this for? Like, how is this going to find a market? And blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think all it takes is seeing is believing. I think with the Steam Deck, it's like you get your hands on it, you get an understanding of the ways it can be used that are totally unique from the Nintendo Switch, right? Sure, they're both modular.
It's not like a walled garden. It's a completely open platform. Like that for me is what was so exciting about it. It's like, yes, it opens up this whole world of other games and like PC gaming on the go, and it's like a different form factor for a gaming PC. But the fact that I can just use literally any other store, I can use emulators, I can use whatever I want, and I can just have it installed on the Steam Deck. I can just go ahead and patch it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. The fact that I'm running the superior Xbox Live Arcade leak of Goldeneye rather than playing the version that's on Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that because I want to hear about it. But yeah, and I think that's the way you need to think about it, right? Like it's not it's not supposed to be a 1-to-1 comparison. I think they serve different niches, and I think even if you just want to use it as a straight up console, right, and you're not a tinkerer, you're not like excited by the open source nature of it, I still think it provides a lot of value because there are a lot of games that come to Steam that will never come to Switch, or that come to Steam first, and you can get them cheaper.
Yeah, we had some big ones this last week. Watch Dogs Legion came to Steam for the first time. It was like £10, and you could play it on your Steam Deck.
And, and like some of the big third-party games, right? Like one of the big games on Steam Deck last year was Elden Ring, right? And it's like, that's never going to run on Nintendo Switch. It's just not going to happen. So I think...
Yeah, and I think eventually we'll get something like Genshin Impact. I think Genshin Impact will eventually come to the deck with their anti-cheat, but it's not happened yet, but I do think that that's more likely than the Nintendo Switch version that they announced,
Yeah.
like, what, 4 years ago at this point?
And to me, it just speaks to the way I've always tried to operate, right? Which is like, I think a lot of times like console like loyalty is bred out of like what you know, right? Like you grew up with one console in your house, so that's like you're like, this is my brand, like this is the one,
It's like it's like football teams, it's like sports teams,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
like, "Oh, this is the one my dad used, so this is what I use,
And yeah, there's
now,"
like this
so
weird sense of like, it's like very like tribalistic, it's very like, this is like PlayStation is good because of this reason and Xbox is bad, whatever. And I think it's like it just feels needlessly combative, right? Or it's
Mhm.
like someone else liking a console that you don't want to engage with doesn't mean that the console that you like is bad. And like there's nothing wrong with having multiple handhelds that you trade between, right? Like we're gonna talk about this a little bit later, but like I've not been playing my Steam Deck the last couple weeks because Fire Emblem Engage came out, and that's what I'm excited to play right now on handheld. So I'm back on my Switch, and it's like that's fine, like just you gotta just
Yeah, but
have
if you
fun.
wanna go back and play, like, the old Fire Emblem games that aren't available for purchase anymore, like, you probably would play those
Uh-huh.
on the deck.
I probably will do that, and that's the thing, right? It's like they serve different needs, they serve different use cases for me. And I think that was something I wasn't sure about when I got the Steam Deck, right? Was like, is this going to be kind of like a thing I play with and then I'm not on it all the time and it's kind of collecting dust or whatever. But it very quickly established a niche for me of like, these are the kinds of games I play on Steam Deck, right? And that's what I'm looking for, right? It's like just finding a use case for any given platform that you're going to engage with, and it's like I kind of have that now. There are certain types of games that I play on Xbox. There's certain games I'm playing on PlayStation. There's some that I'm getting on Switch. There's some I'm getting on Steam Deck. And, it's all about what games I'm most interested in and what's the platform where, it's either it runs the best, it's the most convenient, it's the most affordable, whatever it is, right? But that's how I go about it. It's like all of my consoles are, in heavy rotation, right? Depending on what the thing is I'm on right now.
Yeah, same with me. It really does depend. Like, I've not played my Switch for a good while, but as soon as Tears of the Kingdom comes out, that's where my focus is going to be. We were playing Persona for the game club, so I'm playing that on Xbox. It really just depends where I want to play, and I like having the flexibility of being able to play wherever I want to. I think that's why I really love the Steam Deck, is just being able to play it handheld, and if I want to, I can plug it into the TV. Like I mentioned on last week's episode, I purchased Hi-Fi Rush on Steam rather than playing the version on Game Pass because um, I was like, I want to play this handheld, and I tried streaming it from my Xbox, and the latency was just too much for a rhythm game. So it was nice to be able to just buy it and play it, and it was good.
Yeah, fit your use case, right? So anyway, thanks for all the new people who came and tuned into last week's episode. I hope you stuck around. If you were a hater, I hope you went and checked out Nintendo Noise because we got that show too.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm just gonna call this one "The Nintendo Switch Sucks" by Steam Deck, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of people in the comments then. Really good engagement cheat.
we just make like a short video for that, and then you click on it. It's just an ad for Nintendo Noise. It's like, got your ass. Go listen to our Nintendo show. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about this week on the show. We're going to kick things off by talking about the latest stable client update. We got a really big update here, which is taking a lot of like the features, changes, tweaks that they've been making in the beta and preview channels, some of which we've talked about for quite some time on this show. So a lot of these are things that you and I are probably already pretty used to and comfortable with. But like when you go to the actual like news update, this looks to be, I think, the biggest update they've rolled out. There's an insane
To the
amount of things
client, I
here.
think it is. Yeah, like we've had big Steam OS updates, but not a big client update in like to this scale. Like they've done extensive changes just to like the general UI and how things function, the keyboard, Steam input. Desktop modes had a change. Big picture modes had a massive change that will affect a lot of people, even non-Steam Deck owners. I highlighted some of my favorite updates. So again, this is something you've probably noticed for months, but I noticed it on Vampire Survivors. It used to, every single time I would open it, it would tell me if I wanted to play Vampire Survivors or play Vampire Survivors with a GPU fix. And there's a
Yes.
bunch of games that do this, right? It's like, do you want to play this version? Do you want to play it with DirectX 11? Do you want to do X, Y, and Z? Like a lot of games come with different versions. Well, now the Steam Deck by default will remember what you picked, and you can override that later on if you want to in the UI. So it's nice. So I can just
Bless
open
up.
up
That's
Vampire
amazing.
Survivors. Yeah, it will just I can open up
Finally.
Vampire Survivors. It doesn't ask me anymore. It remembers what I wanted to
Love
pick,
that.
and there's like a checkbox if you want to uncheck it. It won't remember, and it'll ask you every time. But I love that feature. It's so good, and you can just go into the settings to change it afterwards.
Yeah.
How it should have been all along. So
That's
it's
a great
nice that they've
quality of
added
life
that
change.
improvement. Yeah, there's two big changes to the keyboard. The keyboard can now be moved around the screen. So if you are
Ooh.
inputting text and it's like in the wrong place, you can move it around the screen. It doesn't need to take up the full screen,
That's great.
and that's great on like a TV because it doesn't need to take up the whole screen now. And you, or if you're on a monitor, you can just have the on-screen keyboard move around. And they've also added up and down keys as well as the left and right buttons. If you press shift now, you'll have up and down keys. So
Like
you
arrow
had left
keys?
and right keys all the time. Yeah, you had left and right arrow keys. You never had
Mm.
up and down keys, which whenever you're playing around in the terminal, like if you're putting in like command line commands, you want to press up to view the history of the commands you've done previously. There was never a way to
Okay.
do it. Now you hold shift down on the keyboard and you can press up, and it's really
Very
good. It's
nice.
nice to be able to do that. And a big one that fixed for me was I use PayPal on Steam for all of my purchases. It was completely broken for a very long time. I couldn't ever complete a purchase because it would come up with just the PayPal button and you have to click it to open up PayPal. It would never open the browser, even though it had already stored all of my details before. Now it works, so you can go through and you can make purchases with PayPal, and I tested this out, and it seems to have worked absolutely fine.
Very nice.
Because I managed to buy Hi-Fi Rush on there. And then probably the biggest change is the new big picture mode, which is the Steam UI, the Steam Deck UI, is now the default experience. So if you have big picture mode on any device, rather than having to now put the like dash new big picture mode, it's replaced the old big picture mode. And they've got a command there now. If you want to view the old big picture mode, you have to add the command line option of dash old big picture. So the Steam Deck UI is now big picture mode for everyone. So if you download Steam
Hmm.
on stable, Steam Deck UI is what you'll get. So that's great news if
Interesting.
you're running, say, like a Windows handheld, like one of the ones from Ioneo or GPD. If you open up big picture mode, you'll get the Steam Deck UI there now.
That's really cool.
Yeah, big changes, I think, and it's nice to see, and that's alongside, like I said, a bunch of smaller changes. There's some stuff in desktop mode. There's some audio crackling change fixes. There's a bunch of stuff to Steam Input, which is mainly related to adding like additional preview stuff, like layouts to the preview page. Like if you've got an Xbox Elite controller now, there's like a Xbox Elite page. There's a Switch Pro controller page. All of that stuff. Joy-Cons, you can now use the SL and SR buttons as bumpers on single Joy-Cons. If you use playing like a multiplayer
Oh,
game with like
cool.
two single Joy-Cons, you can now use those. So there's a bunch of stuff that they've added into Steam Input as well. That of course this isn't just unique to the Steam Deck. It's the Steam client. So a bunch of this stuff will be relevant if you're running Steam on any device. So if you're running it on PC and you're using big picture mode, which I know Max does, these changes will also come through for you, which is great. But what's really cool is like I think this opens up a world of possibilities. I've been constantly thinking about installing Windows on my Steam Deck, whether that's dual booting or just replacing SteamOS. I've just been holding out until the official image for SteamOS comes out, the official installer, which is going to have dual boot support. But I think I might just bite the bullet and install it on an SD card, which I know is going to completely fry the SD card eventually. But I'll just buy a cheap SD card and shove it on there because I really want to try. automatically booting into big picture mode whenever Windows boots up, and see if that's a good experience. And then also have the ability to play Game Pass games with PC Game Pass and just booting into that if I want to, and a bunch of games that aren't supported on Linux, like something like Genshin Impact, which there is a way to play that game by bypassing the anti-cheat, but obviously if you've invested a decent amount of money into that game, that you don't want to jeopardize your account by bypassing anti-cheat on Linux.
Yeah, for sure. I'm interested to see like how that experiment goes for you. If it feels like it's worthwhile. Um, because yeah, I think like being able to play Game Pass natively would be such a game changer, right? It's like that's like I think probably the number one thing we've been asking for since the Steam Deck came around is like how do we get Game Pass on this thing, right? Because that obviously unlocks a huge amount of potential in terms of expanding the library, in a really meaningful way. So yeah, I'm excited. I hope you figure it out and it's worth doing. But man, you're crazy. Like it's so crazy that there's like, yeah, we're gonna put out like an official solution. You're like, nah, maybe I'll do it myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's great is a lot of people have done the groundwork for us already. There are like bootloaders that you can have where you have like the multiple images, things like that. And there's also a project which I'll link to in the description box or the show notes, called Steam Deck Tools, which is on GitHub. It's by IUFan, and they've put together a bunch of tools that you have in Linux and on SteamOS in the performance panel that you don't have on Windows natively. Now, those are the fan control, the performance overlay, so you can view the FPS and the other stats, like being able to see the GPU, like how much is being drained, that kind of thing, the RAM that's being used. Power control, so you can change the TDP and the refresh rate of the screen panel, because that natively you can't do. And then also being able to use the Steam Deck with Game Pass, which is probably the biggest one, and that is the Steam controller. It replaces SWI, CD, and Glossy, and it's just like a bit of software that you install these Steam Deck tools. So I'm probably gonna play around with those and give them a try. It's on my starred list over on GitHub. So if depending on how it goes, there may be a video coming.
Yeah, you'll have to report back. I'm sure people would be interested to see how that's going and maybe try it for themselves.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into the rest of the show here, let me remind you that this episode of the Steam Deck Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of February. They are, of course, Anthony Gonzalez, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Ty the Dude, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the real to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Speaking of which, if you want to find those shows, if you want to become a Patreon producer, if you want to write into the show, if you want to come and join our Discord and keep the conversation rolling between each episode, you can find links to all that and more over on flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find all the places we are all over the web. So however you choose to get involved, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. So let's jump into the next one here. There were some rumors circling that LittleBigPlanet was going to be coming to PC, and Steve, you are here to shatter the folks' dreams. Talk about it.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. It's not going to happen. So 3 games showed up on SteamDB. They are Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3, and the rumor was there was going to be a collection coming, the Little Big Planet collection coming to PlayStation, and then it's also going to come to PC at the same time, powered by something called Gorilla Engine. But the owner of SteamDB Export said this is fake. The app ID was used as a fake Team Fortress 2 app to fake a golden frying pan, apparently. Probably means something to people that play Team Fortress.
Right, I'm like, I remember frying pans in Team Fortress 2, I think. But, okay, whatever. Go ahead.
But yeah, unfortunately, not coming. So there's like a fake parent app called Fish Station. And then they've added these as like DLC to that game to make them look like their actual games. But I think the game has been removed from Steam. So it was
Why would
last
someone do
updated
this?
17 days ago. don't know, to troll the internet. It's good fun, I guess.
I guess. I don't understand people. I really don't. You know?
People do all the time. Do you remember those like fake leaks of like the Nintendo Switch and stuff? And it was like
Yeah.
that big, like single panel with like the sticks
The
on it. Which was
controller
so
that had
weird.
like a
Yeah.
screen like on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and like I remember people would do like the fake Smash reveals and stuff like that, you know? Um
Yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like those
But
feel like more fun, right? Like it's like somebody like edits a cool video and then it goes viral and they're like, "Oh, this was a joke. Like I just did this because I thought it would be cool," right? It's like like going through the trouble of like making a fake listing on Steam just to like trick people into being like, "Oh," it's just like I don't understand the motivation.
it gets people the clout on Reddit or something.
I
don't know.
guess,
I
yeah,
don't
you're
get it.
right.
But I wanted to highlight it because I think people always take it at face value. Like someone will report that Little Big Planet's coming to Steam and it's on Steam DB, and they'll see that, but then they won't see the follow up like a few hours later that
Yeah,
no, it's not actually coming to PC. This was completely fake, or they won't dig into it enough to realize that these are DLCs on another application that was used as a fake product. So it's a shame that it's not coming by the looks of it. I can't imagine that these games are coming anytime soon, considering they're not for sale on PlayStations anymore because the servers shut down. You can't share any of it.
I feel like that's why it
They
would be so
suffered.
cool for it to come to PC. You
It
know, to
would be
like
cool. I
make
feel
it
like the
bring
game
it back,
I
make
would
it permanent.
prefer though, the game I would prefer is Dreams. I feel like Dreams would prosper on PC in a way that it never did on PlayStation because you've got the tools with a keyboard and mouse or like a tablet to be able to sculpt and like really get fine granular control. And what is essentially a really really cool game engine that's locked with PlayStation Move controllers and or a PlayStation 4 controller, and it's like it really just was released and just left to wilt, and it's a
Yeah,
real shame.
it really feels like they missed an opportunity there, especially if they knew that they were going to eventually like put things out on PC. It's like, why not, right? Like I think that would be such a bigger game if it was on Steam.
I mean, that's something that I kind of feel should be ripe for cross-platform. Like it should
Oh
be on
yeah, it
everything.
should.
That could be their Roblox, and they could quite easily have had like a platform for people to build things on and sell things on and have a marketplace and create something really cool.
It's kind of nuts to me,
Um,
like how much time and effort they put into it to let it just kind of like underwhelm.
yeah, it's a real shame, absolute shame. And like they even put out like Media Molecule even put out some games that they made within Dreams. There's one called Ancient Dangers, A Bat's Tale. And like no one's played it because no one bought Dreams. So like you need Dreams in order to play that. And it's but you could have had this on PC. It would have been perfect on Steam Deck to be able to play these games that you created on the go or being able to try them out. Like, there's a lot you could have done with it, and it's a real shame. And there's like a bunch of other PlayStation games involved that I think would be great on PC.
Like what?
Well, I'd like to see a lot of the PlayStation 1 games come over. I don't see why they've never released an official emulator on PC. It makes sense for them to and just resell the games that you've just kind of forgotten about and locked away.
I think that's the big thing for me is like I would I would really like to see, and I feel like we talk about this more with Nintendo than PlayStation, but I think they're just as guilty of it. I think it's frustrating that you have these companies with like really, really deep libraries that just don't have any way for them to be made available, you know? And I think I understand when it comes to like consoles, right? Like that strategy is going to evolve, right? Like Nintendo decided that like the NSO apps were what they wanted to do rather than the virtual console. I think that's a bad idea, but there's obviously like market reasons that they did that, you know? And I think you can kind of see why, right? Where it's like when virtual console popped off, like there weren't really a lot of retro collections around yet. Like that wasn't as much of a trend as it is now. And I think a lot of people were like, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll monetize these old games that we're not selling anymore. Why not? Right. Now that that's more common, it feels like it's very fractured. Right. And it's like there isn't really like a standard in place. And we've talked a lot about remakes and versus remasters and all that stuff on the Flip Screen podcast, but I think for me, one shouldn't replace the other, right? Like having access to the original version of the game isn't going to dissuade people from playing a remake, if the remake is good, right?
Oh yeah, I agree.
So it's like,
And
why don't these companies just make their entire old school library available on PC, right? Or available on, their storefront, But I think PC makes sense because it's a permanent platform, right? Like you don't need to, okay, we ported all the PlayStation 1 games to
gotta
PS4,
bring it
but
over to the next console.
yeah, now the next
It's
console has
like
slightly different architecture, so we have to do it again. And, it's like, instead of reinventing the wheel every time, why don't you just put them on PC, and like make a PlayStation launcher if you need to. But, yeah, I agree. I would like to see more of those games just be more available, and more accessible. Because so many of the like classic PS1 Sony published games that you think about, right, are like not available on PS5. Were not available on
yeah, like
PS4.
PS1 and PS2, and I get that some of those is licensing things like Crash Bandicoot, for example. Is obviously owned by Activision now, so
Sure.
it's like, can you really re-release that even though it was originally a Naughty Dog game? Probably not. But like even still, like we've got the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection. We never got the other Uncharted games. Like I'd like to see those come
Yeah,
over.
like what if
It
PC
makes
players want to
sense.
play the entire Uncharted?
Exactly.
They
Let me
can't.
play all of Uncharted. I'd like to see them bring over some stuff like Jack and Daxter or some of the earlier Ratchet and Clank games, or even Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I think that is
Yeah.
certainly playable on a bunch of PCs. That you can just make sure that the system specification is very clear that you need an SSD in order to play it. If that's one of the things that is a requirement. Like the Killzone franchise, the Resistance franchises. I know that you're not a massive fan of them, but I know that they've got a following. I really
I
loved the.
I don't I just to be fair, I'm not a massive fan of them. I made one comment about how I don't think that Killzone is a marquee franchise and people came for me. I have no opinion about
Okay, all
Killzone.
right, okay, fine. The MotorStorm games, they were great. It would be cool to kind of see like them revive that, or bring over more of like the Gran Turismo stuff. Like I think GT7 is rumored to be coming. But it would be really cool to have that and have like maybe GT Sport over there as well. We've only really got Forza and BeamNG as the kind of top driving games over on PC. It'd be great to have some more. There's a bunch of stuff, and I just love to see them expand their libraries, and bring over more of the franchises, like even stuff like Parappa the Rapper, or I loved Loco Roco on the PSP. Like
Sure.
resurrect these smaller beloved games and bring them back, and like people will buy them for nostalgia purposes, if
Yeah, and
even
like
if that's just it.
stuff that might not get another entry, right? Like Ape Escape is like probably a franchise that will never get revived, right? Like put those on PC. Like let me play them,
Yeah,
Twisted Metal, right? Maybe Twisted Metal will get a revival because they have like a TV
Twisted Metal's
show.
coming back.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what that means, right? Like, but like I would love to like, jump into Twisted Metal 2 and things like that. And like I think Twisted Metal 2 is actually one of the ones on their streaming tier, but like we all know that's overpriced, right? It's not a great deal.
We'll talk about that on Flip Screen Games podcast this week.
We will indeed. Um so yeah, I mean, I'm of the opinion every game that they own the rights to, just make it available. Like I'm so tired of like just not having access to retro games and like being like the only way to play a bunch of these games would be like, well, I guess I'll play them on Steam Deck, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's because someone else has done the hard work of building an emulator with zero help from the platform holder, of ripping and preserving the game, and making that available on a device
they're
through
doing God's
something like
work.
EmuDeck. It's just like that shouldn't be the only way to play it. As great as those open source projects are, I really feel like sometimes the platform holders should be chipping in.
You would hope, honestly, but you know, I guess the financial incentive is not there, right? Or they haven't figured out a way to balance the cost with the return in a way that they feel like makes sense. which I think is
Hmm.
a shame. But we shall see, right? We know that Sony's obviously investing a lot more in reviving old stuff and bringing it to new platforms. So stranger things have happened. So this next one's a quick update. This is a game that we've talked about on the show a couple times. Marvel Midnight Suns got a big update just this past week, and it's got a couple like general improvements that seem to address a lot of the problems that people were experiencing at launch on PC. Obviously, there was notably like the issue with the 2K launcher, but even once that was resolved, the game had some like optimization issues. They're pushing out a new patch that is supposed to address general performance improvements, general stability fixes, but then there's a couple actually specific Steam Deck updates as well. They made some fixes to the virtual keyboard, the Steam/Deck/Link save files, like fixing the cloud syncing between those three versions, and then as well as just some general Steam Deck stability fixes as well. I've heard from a friend who is playing the game that it was already in a place where if you did a little bit of tweaking, you could get it running in a way that was like stable and Steam Deck friendly. But it sounds like after this now, like kind of the default experience is going to be more akin to what people were able to achieve with a little bit of tweaking. So I'm really excited about this. This was a game I was really, really hot for. And it obviously had some good buzz when it dropped. But yeah, it just like was in a weird spot where I wanted to get it on Steam Deck, never got around to it. Now I'm playing Fire Emblem Engage, which is like very much a stylistically similar game. So it's not as much of like, at the top of my list, but I'm gonna definitely keep my eye out for a sale now and probably try to snap it up on Steam Deck when I get a chance. So wanted to give the PSA because obviously I think I've been the one here that's been the most excited about this game.
Oh, I'm really excited about it. I'd love to play it. Like I've heard nothing but great things about it. I'm not a massive Marvel fan. I've never really got into it, but the story seems great on it.
You're
I
not
love
like
the fact
anti
that
either. You're like real like
no, I'm
on the
not.
cusp.
Yeah, I'm just like it's like okay, I'm just not really got into it. Like what I have engaged with, I've loved, like namely
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, yeah, which was
Which
great.
makes sense. I'm like, I don't care who you are. Like even if you don't like superheroes, if you can watch that movie and tell me it's not good, then I don't know what's wrong
Oh,
with
it's
you.
a phenomenal film.
It's
Phenomenal.
that movie is incredible. Like just artistically, right? Like pff,
Yeah, and I saw a bunch of people in the comments on this saying that they still hadn't they were still suffering crashes. But apparently, if you make sure you've downloaded the second DLC patch and verify the integrity of the files via Steam, there's an option in the settings to do that.
okay.
It may find a corrupted file, and if it does, then it'll re-download that file, and you'll be able to patch it, and hopefully
Nice.
that'll fix the problems.
You
Um,
you likely wouldn't encounter that if you're a new player though, right? That's a
No,
discrepancy
yeah, it's
between the
if you've
versions.
already played it before, yeah,
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
between the updates. So if you're new to Marvel's Midnight Suns, you likely won't experience that. But I'm just wanted to make sure that people are aware.
Yeah, that's great. I'm definitely keeping my eye out for a sale on this one. I definitely would love to pick it up when I've got time. Um, it's very much my jam. Literally, my only complaint is that apparently you can't romance any of the heroes, and like, come on, we all know that's what we want to do. We all want to. We all want to.
No, but they romance each other from what I've heard.
Okay, I'm back in. I'm back in. All right.
Yeah, they romance each other. They've got like fixed storylines, but the character you play, which I think is Knight,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, they can't. So that's fine.
Shame.
They're just like a pawn that's there, really.
Yeah, right. You're just like, yeah, I know we're like fighting to save the world, but I'm like very much spying on all the roommates I have and who's hooking up,
Yeah. For what it's worth, Pete, it's half price on CD keys at the moment if you're interested.
Fudge. That's what that Patreon money's for, right? Let's do it, gang. So I mentioned earlier, right, that like right now I've been very locked in on Fire Emblem Engage. That's kind of been where a lot of my handheld time's been going lately. And you have been playing a game that most people are playing on Nintendo Switch right now, but on Steam Deck.
Yeah, so in between playing Hi-Fi Rush, which I'm trying to eke out as long as possible because I know it's a short game and I'm enjoying it so much. So I'll play a level every now and again. I've been playing Goldeneye, but not the crummy N64 version that's on Switch Online and Xbox. I played the Xbox Live Arcade version. I'm having a really good time with it. It's super impressive what they managed to achieve with it. This was the leaked version that came out a few years back. I think it was from the Xbox 360 era, so it's like from
So
2009, I believe is
walk
what
me
it
through
says.
this, right? So this is the version that leaked years ago that never came out.
Yes,
They've now released the game on Xbox, but it's not this version. It's the original version.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. So what is different about this version then?
So this version has completely remastered textures and environments. You can switch between them by pressing the bumpers, and that'll swap in real time between the N64 version and the like newly remastered version. People actually look like people. You can play in like 4:3 or 16:9, which I know you can on the Xbox version um, of GoldenEye that they've released. Obviously has modern controls. Auto aim helps a lot, and it's just really great. Like it
And
is a
the
full
current Xbox
remaster.
version doesn't have any updated controls at all, right? Like it's
The current Xbox version does. It has like the dual stick controls. The N64 version on Switch does not, but it has online multiplayer, and the Xbox version does not. So they've made
what?
compromises. It's very strange. There's no
Why?
definitive, really good version, other than I would say this
You have
version,
two
the Xbox
half-baked
Live Arcade
versions? That's
version. Yeah.
ridiculous. Can you play this one
Yep, there's
online?
I believe you can through Xenia, or if you have a modded Xbox 360, you can play it online. Yeah, it's really, really good, like really, really good.
So you're gonna make a video telling people how to do this then?
Well, yeah, I can do, but it's very simple. I'll walk through the process here for those that
No,
are
no, don't
kind of
spoil it. Just
knowledgeable
make the
enough.
video.
But if you want to play it before I do the video, and I
Okay.
will do, download
Okay.
Xenia Canary, and you can just boot it up through that. But I'll do a walkthrough process. I also wanted to call out a new Decky Loader plugin called Steam Grid DB, which is from the people at Steam Grid DB. So you know how you can change artwork on games, and Steam Grid DB is kind of like the
Yeah.
home for it. They've got a plugin, so now you can do it from within gaming mode, and you just go to the game you want. You click on the dot 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 icon,
Really?
you click change artwork, and it'll automatically
That's
detect
awesome.
the game based on the title, and you can swap it out. So
I
I
love that.
changed the name from Xenia to GoldenEye 007, selected the artwork, and on Steam Grid DB there is artwork specifically for the Xbox Live Arcade version that someone's created. So I pulled that down. And bonus, there's like animated versions of the like imagery. The animations can come through as well. So if you want to put like a
Wow.
GIF as like the like hero image or as like the cover art, you can do that as well, which is really, really cool.
That's cool. Um it's funny because that reminds me, this was a thing I was gonna talk to you about at some point, but I guess maybe I'll bring it up to you now. I learned about a popular mod to Tony Hawk's Underground that's called Thug Pro. Um, that like is like a very it's like I guess I think it's actually a mod for Underground 2. But it's like a huge collection of like all of the levels from every other game, and like people modding like custom characters and like music and everything. It's like
That's cool.
it seems really, really cool. I saw a video the other day. There's this musician I follow, Jer, who is better known as Ska2 Network. They have a YouTube channel where like they do like covers of songs and like a ska version. But they also are like in a band, We Are the Union, and like have a solo career and everything. They're great. Love them. And they posted a video of this where someone had modded in Isabelle from Animal Crossing as the skater, and then was playing one of the songs from their solo album that came out last year, like in the background. And I was like, I need to get into this. Like, and
You
like
should do it. Yeah.
the GoldenEye thing made me think of this, of like, damn, like, am I about to get into like modding old PS2 games? Because I think I might.
It looks pretty simple from what I can tell. It's just a launcher. You download the Thug Pro launcher.exe, and you should be able to just launch that up as a non-Steam game, which is cool.
I think I might set it up. Maybe I'll make Maybe I'll make a video on how to do it. Be
Yeah,
like,
if
here's
you
how you
manage
do
to
it, gang.
do it. Yeah. I like, can you mod in all the Disney characters so it'd be like Disney Skate Adventure, but like a good version?
I have to imagine. I have to imagine that you can, and that someone else has thought of this. Because I'll tell you what, Steve, one of the top comments, like when I saw from the Scott 2 Network Twitter, they posted this video, and somebody replied and was like, "Oh, I loved playing Disney Skate Adventure because there's a Real Big Fish song in it." And I was just like, "Okay, somebody did this. Somebody drew the line between these two games, right? Like, I guarantee it."
Yeah, very, very good. Both very, very good games. I love Disney Skate Adventure. It was cool.
It was a good
game.
time. It really was.
Yeah, but
I never
I
owned
would highly
it.
recommend.
I only played it. I had a friend growing up whose mom was like very Christian and was like, Tony Hawk's Underground is too like, that's no good. So like they only had Disney Skate Adventure. It's like, hey, it's pretty good. It's not a bad game.
That's like we've got pizza at home, and you say you want Pizza Hut.
Yeah, and it's like they got Lunchables.
I highly recommend the Xbox Live Arcade version of Goldeneye. It's really cool. It's from a closed beta that was leaked, but benefits me. I don't care.
People are insane. I love that was like a thing, and like somebody like ripped all the files and is just like keeping it alive.
Yeah, it's up on archive.org. I can't link to it, but if you search for XBLA Goldeneye, you will find it.
Why can't you link to it? You can't link to an archive link?
No, you will get removed from YouTube.
Really? That's interesting. Okay.
There's another rule. It's circumventing copyright protection, and unfortunately, that falls under it because there have been many videos removed that linked to it. So if you find the ROM yourself, I'll show you how to set Xenia up, because setting an emulator up, not illegal. If you find this stolen file yourself, that's on you.
The mental gymnastics there are so interesting to me. Of like, it's not illegal to host this, but it's illegal to tell people where you can find it. Okay.
Archive.org has an exemption from the DMCA.
It's the best website in the world. Yeah, it is. I donate money to them whenever they need it, by the way. Hand it out. They deserve it. They're out here doing God's work. So anyway, keep your eyes peeled. We'll have a video on how to get the XBLA GoldenEye running as soon as Steve gets around to doing it. And then maybe if people are interested, I'll work on one for Thug Pro as well. So let us know. But yeah, get to it, Steve. You got some work to do. All right, gang. So that is going to do it for another episode of the Steam Deck podcast here this week on Flip Screen Games. Remember, if you want to write in, if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to let us know the next video that you want to see Steve make, like if there's a crazy thing you want to learn how to do on your Steam Deck, make sure you write into the show because we might just do it. He's done it before. He's crazy. He'll do it again. Look at him. Look at that smirk. He'll do it.
We'll see. Depends what it is. Within reason, No,
I'm telling you. Blank check. Just write in. Just tell us.
Yeah.
Anyway, flipscreen.games. That's where you can find us. Write into the show. Join the Discord. Become a Patreon supporter. However you choose to get involved and show your support. We greatly appreciate you tuning into this week's episode of the Steam Deck podcast. And we hope you'll see you again next week. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steam Deck podcast, baby. Take it easy.